Most restoration contractors are leaving at least $1,000 per job on every single water job. And usually how this thing starts, the customer doesn't want you to get started swinging hammers until you've got approval that the claim's going to be covered. That's understandable. If you get started without that approval, your customer is nervous. On the other hand, if you're sitting around waiting for the thing to get approved, you run the risk of getting kicked off the job because the adjuster's pet contractor is going to come out there. What if I told you there's a smarter way? What if there's a way that you can actually start drying and start getting paid and give your customer the peace of mind that they're searching for? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Here's the deal. If you own a restoration company, you want to give your customer peace of mind, and you want to start making at least another $1,000 per water damage job, you do not want to miss this video. Let's go. All right, guys, so in this video, we're going to break down a term that I heard early in my career, but I wasn't really sure what it was, and I certainly didn't know how to use it. And that term is stabilization. So what is stabilization? When should you use it? How do you use it? And then how do you pick up an extra $1,000 per job when you're doing stabilization? We're going to break all that down in this video. All right, so let's talk about where do you start hearing stabilization in the beginning. I first heard of it in the S500, okay? And they talk about as soon as you arrive on site, you want to stabilize, okay? What does it mean to stabilize? Well, if you think about what is our job, what is our role in a water damage restoration project, we are to get out there and to mitigate damage. We are there to stop the damage against further secondary damage. In most cases, that's going to be extracting water and get started on the mitigation. But there are many cases where, for whatever reason, you can't take that step yet. Maybe you're looking to get carrier approval, okay? Maybe you're waiting for a dumpster to arrive. Maybe it's a freeze event and you're trying to get equipment off of one project so you can get started on another. In any of those situations, when you can't get started to the full extent that you normally would otherwise, you at least do something in lieu of nothing. That something, that is stabilization. So stabilization is this. It is a strategic pause. It is you planting a flag on your water damage project. Another way that you might have heard this in the past is, one term that I've heard is you go spike a project, okay? And when you spike a project, that means you're going to set a piece of gear, you're going to plant your flag, and you're saying, hey, this is our project, we've got it going, this thing is now stabilized, and This is it. It's going down. And so how do you stabilize? In many cases, if you're doing a mold job, you would stabilize with an air scrubber and or dehu. You might stabilize with just an air scrubber. You might stabilize with just a fan. There's any number of ways that you would stabilize, okay? But ideally what you're doing is you are planting a flag on that project to declare that it is yours, get something going, get something started, and whatever it is that you're doing, you're trying to control the atmosphere in that environment so that things don't deteriorate further. That, my friend, is stabilization. You're probably pretty familiar with it. Normally, it's going to involve a dehumidifier and an air scrubber because maybe you don't have the ability to extract everything out. Maybe there's a situation where you've got some elaborate $10,000 bed upstairs, okay? And you've got to take this thing apart with a special tool that you don't have tonight, but you can get it tomorrow, okay? Like, this is a true story. My company, we wound up having to break the bed and we got in trouble for it. That's a long story. State Farm, thanks a lot for throwing us under the bus. But we responded to a water loss in the middle of the night, okay, on a weekend, and it's an upstairs bedroom. And in this situation, we didn't have these big, huge beds are not meant to be disassembled. Like if you go look at my son's bed, it is like a tree house, okay? So you need a set of tools to take that thing apart, or you just beat the thing up and get it out of there. Well, what do? I guess it really depends on how much that thing is worth, right? In that process, that's an example where you might not have a chance to do all the extraction because you need to stabilize for 12 or 24 hours or whatever that amount of time is to get the rest of the stuff to do what you need to do, okay? When you do that, you are stabilizing. One of the biggest things that I remember, at least in stabilizing, is going to be if we can't get gear there right away, I always send someone out, a project manager, I almost said technician. Pro tip, when you go sign a job, you're not typically sending your water damage technician out there. You're sending a salesperson out there to evaluate it. Is it even a project to do? You don't know that. So you don't necessarily want to send a technician and a truck out there until you know that it's a project, number one, that's worthy of you guys doing it. And number two, you've got a customer that's going to sign your contract to allow you to get started. Until then, you're not going to want to dispatch all of your assets, okay? But when you do send that sales guy out there, I always tell my team, I always tell my clients, Take some gear with you so you can spike that job. You begin the stabilization process right then, right away. And again, once you sign that, now let your customer know, okay, something's actually getting started. Whereas if you did it the other way around and your salesperson goes to sign it, now he's kind of stuck there till the technician gets there, or he can leave, but that's not a really good look. If you come out, you sign a project and you leave without getting a piece of gear started, the customer's like, what exactly just happened here? And so for that reason, you always want to set a piece of gear and stabilize. And we'll get around to getting paid on that gear in just a few minutes. So when do you stabilize? Well, there's a handful of different times that you might stabilize. Number one, the customer might want carrier approval. I know just about 90% of the customers are going to want to know that they've got carrier approval. Well, if for some reason, now listen to me, you always want to have the power of persuasion to be able to lead your customer to allowing you to do the mitigation. You always want the customer to be on your side and allow you to do your job. You never want to be so poor at sales that you can't persuade your customer to follow your lead. That being said, there might be situations where the customer wants to wait a day or whatever, or two. Those are going to pop up from time to time, where you've got one customer and they're like, listen, just not today, let's start tomorrow. I just want to talk to my agent, whatever that thing might be. You want to stabilize in that situation, okay? Another example for stabilization, maybe you want to do some lead-based paint tests, okay? Maybe you need to do some asbestos testing. Any environmental concerns, that's a good example that you want to have some equipment running in the background when you stabilize. And we talked about this earlier. Maybe you're waiting on a dumpster. There's going to be a lot of cases that you guys, if you've got a ceiling that's on the ground, like you don't want to be taking wet drywall and putting it out in a driveway, okay? Like you just don't. You're going to need to stabilize to do whatever you got to do and get the stuff in place so you can do your job properly. And again, do not be afraid to wait on a dumpster to do all your demolition. It doesn't make any sense doing double and triple work, okay? And a lot of times you can wind up damaging the driveway or destroying the yard or the grass. Wait to get the stuff that you need, where you need it, when you need it, before you go in there full bore to do everything you need to do. And stabilize while you're doing it, okay? Now, we talked about this one as well earlier. You might need to wait on a piece of gear to get freed up. In freeze events, or you got any cat events, catastrophic events, there's gonna be a lot of cases where you are going to rotate equipment. You're gonna sign a job, and that thing may sit there for 2 to 4 to 5 days while you're waiting on gear to get freed up so you can go do the job. Now, I know that it's not ideal for a job or something to sit wet, okay? And in many cases, you're gonna go do the extraction first, okay? But you're not gonna be able to do the full demolition or the full opening up of everything that you would normally do otherwise until you've got all of your resources available. And your limited factors could be your thumbs, that you don't have enough resources for people, or it could be equipment, either one, okay? But in those situations, you want to have a piece of gear there stabilized, and you're adhering to the S500, and most importantly, you're getting paid the whole time. Okay, here's another time where I've stabilized. This is a joke, but it's not really a joke. Sometimes we'll show up and do a job. How many of you guys have gotten calls? How many calls do you get on Friday after 2 p.m., right? Like that is a really popular time to get calls. And so if you get called out on a job on Friday at 2 p.m., you guys go out there, you always want to take some gear with you. And especially this is going to be like a kitchen job or something like that, or you're about to have to tear apart a living room or a bedroom. You've got options like this. All right, ma'am, so I'm signing this. We can come back later tonight, or we can come back tomorrow morning, or we'll just stabilize through the weekend. We'll come out Monday when you're at work, and we'll begin the whole demolition on Monday. Which one do you prefer? And you can put it in your customer's hands, just as simple as that, okay? I'm gonna stabilize in either situation. I say this as a joke, but like if your crew is dead dog tired, give them a little break and do some stabilization in the process, okay? You don't have to do all the demolition on day one. You don't have to do all the demolition on day one. You don't have to tear everything out at 2 a.m. All you need to do is to get some freaking tourniquets on that project, get the stuff extracted, and get it under control, and then go get some rest, bro, and then come back and get the rest of it done, okay? One of the big misconceptions that I see in the restoration industry is you think you've got to do it all and you've got to do it all right now. That is not true, okay? And not only that, there are cases that you could put forth that it's hazardous to your team if you're pushing them and they're tired and they haven't slept in 2 days, like with cat events, guys especially. The guys are going to need some rest, okay? And you already know this because your guys aren't going to work around the clock for 2 days straight. They're going to work a lot, but the longer they work tired, the more likely they are to get hurt. It is okay to let the guys get a freaking breather and stabilize while you do it. So let's talk about the best part. When we opened up in the video, we talked about how you can make up to $1,000 just by stabilizing. Well, let's talk about this part too. And you guys, look, you may browbeat me, but I'm just telling you, when I go out there to stabilize, the benefit is this. Number one, you get a chance to charge for setup and delivery. Even though we're going to do it twice, we're going to set up and deliver an initial piece of equipment, okay? And I'm going to charge him for that. And I'm going to charge him for that thing running, okay? For the 2 days. If I come back and check on it one day, I'm going to charge him for a monitoring trip. When you go out and you set the gear, I will charge them a $500 fee for setting it up and bringing it out. And that's on Friday night. And if we come back on Monday and I bring more gear, you dang right, I'm charging them another $500 for doing another setup. Why? Every time your truck rolls, you should earn and fetch at least $500. You don't believe me? Go look at all of the service providers like your emergency service plumbers, HVAC guys, Mr. Sparky Electric, all of these retail franchise type emergency service mechanical contractors, A1 Garage Door, any of them, they're all going to charge you $500 just to come out there and shake your hand. That's what it's going to be. So guess what? I think you should get paid $500 every time your truck rolls as well. How are we going to do that? Stabilization. And so just think of it this. When I go out and I set a job originally, I charge them $285, $289 for an initial response. So we're at $300 there. I'm going to charge them another $489 or $500 for the gear. Okay. So what are we sitting at now? $800. And then I'm probably going to charge them $200 to $300 just for the gear staying there for 2 or 3 days as well. So you're already at $1,000 just in the name of stabilization. Okay. There's another place that I will use stabilization, and I use stabilization sometimes for optics. Okay. And here's what I mean by this. When it comes to getting paid for water damage projects, specifically through insurance companies, presentation matters, okay? They'll pay you for 30 fans for 3 days, but they're not gonna pay you for 3 fans for 30 days. It's still 90 units, okay? 3 times 30, it's 90, so it's still 90, but how you present it matters. So I'm gonna say this again in a different way. Presentation matters. If you've got a job or if I've got a project and for whatever reason, I might have dried this sucker, it took me 7 or 8 days to get it dry, I'm not going to sit there and charge them for 7 or 8 days to dry it because you already know everything can get dried in 3 days, right? I know that's a farce, but I don't like drying things over 4 days. 5 days at the most, unless there's some really good specific reasons. What am I going to do? If I've got an 8-day project, okay, and another example might be you got to do demolition. It may take 2 or 3 days to do the demolition. So you're going to set up gear, dry, top down, and then do as much demo as you can, come back the next day. It may take you 2 or 3 days to get all of the demo done. And then once all the demo's done, then you might have a 4-day dry down on top of that. So now we're sitting at 7 days at this point. What I'm telling you is I'm not going to dry over 4 days. I'm going to put 3 days in stabilization and 4 days in drying. That is presentation, okay? Because they don't like to pay for 3 fans for 30 days, but they'll pay for 30 fans for 3 days. When I go to dry projects, I don't like to dry over 5 days. If it's anything over 5 days, I'm gonna take that gear, take that equipment, put it on its own line item, okay? And do that in the name of stabilization. All right, so how do you handle this with your client? Number one, your client doesn't really know exactly what needs to happen or occur on any given project. You could probably set an air scrubber or a DU and they wouldn't know what either one of them are, okay? You could probably set it and just about not plug it in and they wouldn't know what you could probably set a hydroxyl machine and they wouldn't know. All I'm telling you is the client doesn't know. They don't have any expectation. What you need to let them know is that you are setting a piece of gear, you are stabilizing things now, and it's with a piece of gear, 2 or 3 pieces of gear. I would set multiple and dry it top down as long as I can, okay? But you just want to guide the customer and let them know why you're doing what you're doing and have a good reason for it, okay? Your customer will understand, and then you will get paid for it as well. Here's the deal, guys. When it comes to doing water damage restoration, the 2 biggest problems you're ever going to face is number 1, getting consistent water damage jobs, and then number 2, getting paid for those jobs. And for that reason, I've got links over here somewhere around my face, and so you can just go click one of these, you'll jump into a playlist, and we'll see you in the next video.